Well, we just had a lovely reaction to our music there. I enjoy that. That's great. Welcome to the Pulse stage and welcome back to some of you. Our next session here is called The Future of Professional Services, Adapt, Automate, Accelerate. Now, we have a fantastic panel for us today for this session, and the chair of the panel is Liz Jones, who is Senior Partner for Wales Deloitte, specialising in IT transformation programmes for public sector organisations, particularly here in Wales. With experience working at CEO and corporate director levels, she assists organisations in scoping and designing technology transformation programmes, guiding them through the implementation stages. So please put your hands together and welcome Liz and our panellists to the stage.
Thanks very much, everyone. Really excited to talk to you about this topic. It's one that's particularly close to all of our hearts. I'm going to chair the panel and ask the panellists alongside me about their experiences today and as they look forward to the future. Certainly an organisation like Deloitte is going through really significant change and has been for decades. We're nothing like the organisation that a lot of people expect from us. But without further ado, can I just hand to the end of the row and ask you to each introduce yourselves and the organisations that you work for. We've got a mic problem. Gotta love technology.
Hiya, so I'm Martin Arnold. I'm a patent attorney at WP Thompson, so I work in intellectual property, and we work with companies protecting their IP from trademarks, patents and designs.
I'm Tom Lewis, a partner at Blake Morgan, a England and Wales law firm with offices here in Cardiff, Manchester, London, Oxford, Southampton and Reading. I'm a commercial and tech lawyer, so I guess I come at this with 3 or 4 different hats. I advise clients about their tech and AI arrangements. I'm a user of AI and tech in my kind of professional capacity, and I also advise the firm on our tech and AI arrangements. So I've got 2 or 3 different views on this.
Hi, I'm Sarah Curzon. I'm a partner at MHA. We're a national firm of accountants, but we do have offices in Cardiff and Swansea. We've been through a massive transformation as an organisation, and I'm sure you can imagine over the last few years. And I'm delighted to share that with you.
Hi everyone, I'm Mike Beck. I'm the Business Development Director at tiQtoQ. We're a quality assurance and testing services company and technology. We work mainly within the highly regulated industries as professional services, but also the likes of the National Lottery. So we test end-to-end all of their technology, helping them deliver ultimately safe, trustworthy and quality technology.
So, colleagues, we're all part of regulated industries, and we know that there's a huge expectations from our clients that we will become as efficient in giving advice as we can, but at the same time we're expected to demonstrate good stewardship and responsible ethical information management. What benefits and challenges are you seeing in the adoption and growth of AI in your own organisations? And Martin, can I start with you?
Yeah, so I guess we're seeing a lot of benefits from introducing AI into our systems. So we handle a lot of data, a lot of public information, so from patent registers, trademark registers, and a lot of that at the moment historically has been inputted manually, and it's a very repetitive task. And to sort of keep up the sort of trust of our data systems, we've got many steps in the processes that involve humans, which are slowly being not replaced, but augmented with AI. So, for example, where we might onboard a client with a lot of information, to input that into our record systems would normally have taken a very, very long time, a lot of back and forth with the client, consulting published registers. We're finding that's speeding up, so the turnaround of onboarding clients is becoming a lot faster. And there are other ways that we're using it. So, for example, the output that we are producing is being checked by AI and everything like that. So we're seeing a faster turnaround due to the sort of fewer sort of human steps that need to be taken in that. But we're also, being regulated, we're not able to just go out and use everything. We have to make sure that, for example, all of the systems we use are used in a safe way, that we understand how we're implementing it, and we understand what's happening to our client information, where it's going. Well, for example, we're not allowed to leak anything outside of the firm, so anything we use needs to be ring fenced, and it's about understanding what we, where that data is going and what it's doing. We also are using it for a lot of the generative AI side is still relatively new, particularly in the patent profession. There are tools out there that we are able to use, but they are still at a very, very early stage, being not as far developed for the tools aren't as developed as the, say, other professional services. So it's something where we are testing at the moment, and we're trying to see how they fit within our regulatory sort of bodies, and it's basically sort of a slow process at the moment. But yeah, I guess I'll hand over to. Sorry.
Yeah, no, just I guess to build on what Martin was saying, we're a very heavily regulated industry. Individual solicitors, law firms are regulated by the SRA, barristers by the Bar Standards Board. In addition to that, we have data protection obligations in the GDPR. The cornerstone of our regulation is client confidentiality and legal advice privilege. So that's the kind of regulatory landscape that we have to comply with, and I guess that's colouring or showing how quickly the legal sector can adopt AI. We have to be confident where our data is going, where it could be used. When ChatGPT initially came in, we had to act quite quickly overnight to essentially blacklist that initially, because we had no control and had no idea where that could end up going. We now have a whitelist of AI systems where we are confident we know where the data is going, and more importantly, where the data is not going. It's in a closed loop system. So that's certainly the main risk. With lawyers, kind of getting the advice and the legal issues right is a huge issue. And I think that's where generative AI is probably, in the legal sector, behind the curve, kind of with more general generative AI. LexisNexis had a really good report published last month, I think, on AI in the legal industry. And one of the quotes that kind of jumped out was, well, lawyers shouldn't use Google as their answers. So why should they use generative AI for that very reason, especially general generative AI? There is legal specific AI being developed and kind of growing. So that's on its way, and it's here. We're trialing a few of those systems. We've seen, we also have duties to the court. Both solicitors and barristers have duties to the court, and we've seen it recently over the last few weeks and months where statements of case have got before judges with completely hallucinated case law in there, and that's a huge issue. Those lawyers may lose their livelihoods over it. So that's a huge risk that we have to address. As with any AI, I guess the phrase in is, if you put rubbish data in, you're going to get rubbish data out. So that's an issue as well, getting the right IT systems in place. Sorry, I sound like a cynic, but AI does certainly have a place to play in the legal sector. There are certainly benefits, efficiency. Whether that means we can do more work or have a better work-life balance depends how we look at it. Hopefully the latter. Being able to have a sounding board and a starting point, that's certainly a selling point as well, and the potential cost of it as well. And there's a whole different discussion to be had about that, but I'll stop on that point and pass on to Sarah.
Just a sort of supplementary question for both of you. Have you seen a change in the preparedness of your clients for the services? Have you seen a change in the profile of clients that come to you? And is AI preparation for your clients a good thing?
It depends. Sometimes we get you will spend a lot of time. You'll get questions asked of you which are clearly have had some influence from AI, Copilot, or various other things out there, and you'll have a client that kind of thinks that they know what they want to do, but don't really understand the reasons for the questions they're asking. We're like, oh, ChatGPT's told me to ask this question, and you'll spend more time trying to dissuade them from a particular route than if they just come to you with their problems in the first place. So there's usually there's sometimes a lack of context, but on the other hand, we have had some so from my perspective, we handle a lot of technical information from inventors, from companies, and yeah, when they've used the AI really or in a way which is, the quality in has been really good, therefore the quality out's great. It has helped massively where, a lot of inventors, they're very technical, their heads are in certain space, so they say, oh, we just do it by this particular process. And for patent applications, we have to open that black box. Well, now we're finding that actually the disclosures that we're getting from them are sometimes improved because they're able to elaborate on those without so much work. So what that means for us is that I'm not having to ask a junior member to go, oh, they talk about this particular thing. Can you go and research that, because we need to put that in to the application. So we're seeing it both ways. Yeah, it's been pleasantly surprising with the improved sort of disclosures and that, but a little bit worrying with the extra questions. I don't know if you see the same.
Yeah, but very similar experience, and we are seeing clients routinely asking what we're doing AI-wise, and I guess there's a fear of missing out, saying, well, if you're not doing everything by AI, then you must be doing something wrong, which I don't think is the right answer. So I think that's the main change we've seen.
Well, I think we're all on a very steep learning curve, and as a technologist by background, I get more excited about the opportunity the AI gives organisations than I probably spend enough time losing sleep about it. Can we go on to talk a little bit about that experimentation, that innovation that you're seeing, and some of the ways that you're doing that innovation responsibly?
So, being in the accounting industry, it's an industry that's changed significantly over the last few years, having gone from writing everything down on paper to fully digitalising, using accounting software packages, encouraging our clients to use accounting software packages which have AI intrinsically built into them. It's then been a challenge to try and understand how we should be using technology and how we should be using AI, and not just using it for the sake of it, using it ethically, ensuring that we're making sure the output from whatever we're doing is correct. So we've set up 2 innovation teams, one specifically to look at AI and the use of it with the tax work that we do, and the other is a more general use of AI within the firm. We've already rolled out a certain number of projects. We're encouraging our staff. We have over 2,000 staff. There's a lot of brilliant minds there with a lot of brilliant ideas, and we encourage them also to talk to their line managers, and if they've got an idea, to put their business case together, to cost it out, and if they can get a partner sponsorship and buy into it, our tech team will look at it then and try and take it forward to a rollout. It's been an interesting time. We are using AI to help us process data for our clients, because the data input is something that's very time consuming and subject to human error. It's also subject to AI error, and our AI has had to learn and develop over the last few years in order to give us the output that we need, but we still need that human process at the end of it to check it. So I think it's key that any business, particularly if you're a smaller business in professional services, you think about what you're trying to achieve from experimenting with AI, what your costs are going to be, and how long is it going to take you to recoup those costs, rather than just rushing in and thinking, well, I should do it because everybody else is doing it. It's got to be right for that business, and it's got to give you the results you want. And then around that, you need to ensure that what you're doing is ethical, that you've got in place the right policies. You know, in professional services, one of the things that's key is ensuring that we don't breach any GDPR rules. So what data you're putting into AI, is it sensitive data? Is it secure if it's on your own internal enterprise AI? If it's going into external AI, such as Copilot or ChatGPT, ensuring that you're not giving away client data, because that one is going to land the business in trouble, and your clients don't want that out there either. So it's making sure those policies are in place, you understand why you're using the AI.
Brilliant. So I would say AI certainly shifted the way that we think about productivity and decision making, for sure. And the most innovation that I'm seeing in the quality assurance and testing space is not necessarily automation just for the sake of speed, but actually using AI to create co-pilots for human. And that is, you know, almost empowering your staff, almost making them superhuman. That's what you want to do. And so whether you're a developer, you're an analyst, or a lawyer, or accountant, or a tester in our case, you almost need to. I'm seeing a lot of people augment their work rather than replace it. And I think that keeping the human in the loop, as Sarah mentioned, is really, really important. That's where we're going to see the most value, especially when it comes to implementation of AI. And also, it's probably the easiest way for you to implement AI in the first instance. So, from a tiQtoQ point of view, we have 175 engineers across the UK. And when we first started looking at AI, when you look at the QA delivery cycle, it's very much, you have your requirements, you've got to analyze those requirements, you've got to look at write your user stories, then you've got to write your test, read your test data and write your test cases. And that takes days of time to do. So what we did was actually built our own technology purely to use it internally to speed up their time. And a job that would normally take, say, 2 days to do is now taking 5 to 10 minutes. And it's all more automated. The benefit, in the first instance, you think, well, it's all about saving time and saving money, but it's not. It's actually about relieving a bit of stress for your employees so that when they come in, all of those mundane, repetitive tasks are taken care of for them. And that they can just focus on the areas of the role that they really enjoy doing, the human side, the empathy, and actually getting involved with the customers. And we've run multiple, what we did, what I would recommend you do first of all, actually, is don't just try doing AI everywhere. So focus on 1 or 2 pain points within your organization. Work out, run sort of kind of small experiments within those pain points, and then build confidence from there. Once you've done that, then obviously you can either use external technology or internal technology, but ultimately you'll have the confidence then to use AI in kind of wider departments, whether that's marketing and various other areas. So we run our AI tool called Disco AI across a couple of clients internally. Being in a highly regulated industry, we have to be very careful on the data that we're inputting into the systems. So quite often we anonymize that data, and that still saves us a huge amount of time. And the results have been phenomenal. So 5 engineers are saving over 100 hours of QA time in 1 month using our system. So as I said, I'll just repeat, focus on 1 or 2 main pain points, build confidence in those areas, and then look at other departments. We are using it across marketing. I mentioned to the rest of the panel earlier on, my biggest bugbear is seeing on LinkedIn that all of the posts are all, clearly written by AI. Bringing in that human element just to add your own touch. I still believe that AI should be used in marketing and writing blog posts. You're going to save a huge amount of time. Why wouldn't you use it? But you need to add your own kind of twist. And I think that's really key from an innovation point of view, but also keeping that kind of culture and your kind of stamp on what you're presenting to your customers.
So, Mike, I probably won't be designing my Christmas cards, putting outfits on my dogs this year because of the environmental cost of using AI. Are you seeing any innovation that your customers are using to counteract the environmental impact?
Good question. Yes. So, I mean, let's look at the bigger picture. Most people think that AI is this virtual, weightless thing. Well, it's not. It's run on enormous infrastructure, physical infrastructure. And if you look at data centers, they're probably using I think they are using between 2 to 3% of global electricity, which is a huge amount, right? And to learn an LLM model uses around the same electricity as 100 homes use in 1 year. Add into that, you also, data centers globally use, I believe, 100 million litres of water just to cool them. So environmental impact is massive, and we have to think about that. Interestingly, though, AI is almost correcting itself. So AI is now making these data centers more efficient, keeping the uptime at better, prompting them when certain things go wrong. So it's almost quite innovative in itself, really. So an interesting case that we're kind of working on at the moment actually is we're seeing lots of data centers pop up. I believe Microsoft and Vodafone are doing the same. But there's been one in particular that really I think is something that we need to be shouting about. And I think a lot of data centers should be doing have a similar concept. And this one is a partnership between Lenovo and this company called MediaStream, and NVIDIA, sorry, as well. And they're building data centers, 4 data centers in the UK. And these data centers are cooled using canal water. And the canal water then is being filtered, heated up, and then sent to vertical food farms, which will then be producing crops and food. And that food is then distributed to food banks across the UK for free. But also, when you think about the heat that's being generated from these data centers, it's enormous, right? So you've got the electricity can be generated from the heat, from the water, but also from the sediment that's been pulled up from the canals. And all of that is generating electricity, which is then fed to the homes and the businesses in the area for free. So it's just a perfect example of how we can actually offset the environmental impact of what data centers are actually causing. But I'll go back to what we were saying. When we use the LLM systems, models, we don't actually think about how much of an environmental impact that is having. And so it's important that we think about it. And ultimately, the 2 biggest topics at the moment are AI and the environment and ESG. Thank you.
Thank you. Question, I think, for all of everyone on the panel. Even this morning, there's a press story about a competitor of Deloitte talking about the global impact of future technologies on the workforce and on graduate intake programs for big professional services like the organisation that I work with. What's your perspective on the future of the attributes and skills that you'd expect somebody in professional services to have in the future? How do you see those skills evolving over time? Is this a fundamental threat to our junior talent, or is this just a settling in that we're having to go through in order to figure out what we need our future workforce to look like?
Shall I start?
Please do.
So that's been quite a big challenge to think about, and it's hit us quite hard this year with our own graduate intake, because some of what we have AI doing, we would normally have our trainees doing, and it was, well, how do we ensure that we give them the learning programs that they need from a practical experience perspective? Because obviously we can put them in a classroom and teach them everything they need to know, but the practical experience is so important as well. And if AI is doing part of what they were doing, how do we ensure we have the advisors of tomorrow that will be checking what the AI is doing? Because eventually the more experienced people will be retired, they'll be gone. And I think that is quite a big challenge as to how far you take the use of AI and technology, and where do you stop to ensure that you are creating the leaders, the managers, the experts of tomorrow. It's one I don't have an answer for, but I think it's something that we all need to think about and see what the larger businesses come up with. You know, we all need to talk about it.
Yeah, I guess we've been told for years that AI is here to replace everyone and anything, and lawyers will no longer exist in 10, 15, 20 years' time. That's absolutely not the case, and we can see from the AI now there's always going to be human interaction, human touch, and a need for human lawyers. As for the future, it's the softer skills as well. We've certainly seen it over COVID, where trainees, junior staff have been sat behind a computer screen, working from home, and I guess they've missed out on that human interaction and learning the softer skills from being sat next to the more senior people, and that's probably something AI is not helping with either. think moving forward, it's developing skills of working with AI. And I know law firms are, certain kind of other law firms, especially US law firms, are allowing junior staff to dedicate an amount of their chargeable time to learn those skills and to understand how they embrace AI and are not replaced by AI. So I think that's a kind of important change in tack moving forward. From a recruitment perspective, in assessment centres and when we hire junior staff, we've historically kind of asked them to do a task. And we have seen in the past where, especially where they've done it virtually, they've come back with an answer and it's all great and brilliant, and then realise it's written by AI, and they come on the first day, first few weeks, realise something's not quite right there. And yeah, so that's probably going to change the way we assess people moving forwards as well.
Yeah, I think it's also, if you're training people, you have to understand and have the conversation with your junior members. So, recently a junior person I work with, I've noticed that their style had changed drastically, and I was like, "What's going on here?" And just ask the question, "Are you using any extra tools or whatever?" And then realize that they are, and it's about explaining to them that, unfortunately, sometimes, well, particularly in my profession, the first 3 years, you've got to do everything in longhand. You've got to do it the boring way to understand why and what the AI is doing when you get there. So right now, he's going back to the generative AI points. Yes, I can use it and go, "Oh, okay, but we need to do this, we need to do that." But you'll never get to that point if you've not done it the long way. So it's about how do we simulate these situations, which, taking notes in meetings is a very important skill, and understanding how to disseminate the information that technical information you've heard, or the questions from the client, and then putting it into minutes and things like that. You can kind of do that automatically now, and it's something I remember sitting down and doing a lot, was going along with a senior partner, being the note taker, and from that you learn a lot of stuff. So how do we make sure that stuff's still happening? So is it, you were saying for the first 2 years that you're not going to be, are the firms going to be investing in terms of in that person more heavily, i.e. not charging any of their time out, or are you going to provide simulated situations like, pilots, for example, they're not actually getting in the plane and flying for the first however long. Are we going to be going down the same route? And that's something which, for the moment, I don't really know what the answer is. But personally, for me, I'm just having a conversation with the junior members and just saying, unfortunately, you've got to kind of do it the long way for a little bit. And then as you can see that they're developing the skills and they've got the ability to sort of use these tools more, that's where they're becoming more useful, and sort of like transitioning in to using them, because I don't think it's very useful just going straight into using them right from being a fresh graduate or apprentice or whatever. So that's certainly what we're doing or looking at.
Mike, anything to add?
Well, I kind of echo what they're saying. Actually, I think the concern for me, from a training point of view, would be AI that kind of automates the easier tasks, the tasks that I guess people would learn from when you first start out in your career. And so when you have people trying to train, especially in the QA space, most of our engineers, by the way, are experienced already, so we don't necessarily have this problem. But when we do have a graduate program or new engineers come through that we're training, they have to be hands-on with our existing trainers. They have to really learn from them. Whereas if that process is automated from an AI point of view, then I think there would be quite a few issues. And so keeps going back to this human in the loop. That's quite important for us.
And I think from sort of a big corporate, big organisation point of view, Deloitte has survived because it has always innovated. A lot of people still assume that Deloitte are an accountancy firm. As I said to the guys earlier, you wouldn't ask me for finance advice. I don't do finance. I'm a technologist. But that evolution and that adaptation, where Deloitte has become a technology business as much as it is a professional services business, has come out of the need for clients to have that professional, regulated support who can guide clients through. Are we going through a bit of a crisis with our junior talent? I think, generally that is something that we're looking very hard at. But I think it's because we're expecting really different skills from our people. More and more, we're expecting people to come with a real ability to tell a story, to talk to clients about how to go through a change journey, to bring to life what a future is going to look like enabled by technology, and the critical thinking skills that we expect of our people. They've always been there. But we still are going to need those young people who we can trust are going to learn how to use AI really, really responsibly. So I'd hope that this is an exciting turning point in the skills journey for our people. I don't know that anybody would want the job that I had when I started, so they're going to come up with something much more exciting and new that they'll do with the future opportunities that we've got. But it is an evolution that we're going through.
I think you're right there. You know, that's the thing, isn't it? That's the problem that we're at, the conundrum we're at the moment, is where we need people that have those kind of personal skills that we want, that human side, the empathy, which is really important. But also we need them to understand it and use AI in an ethical way, because that's where the future's going. And it's obviously going to be important, so we have to be able to compete in that way.
Thank you very much, everyone. Just want to hand out to the audience and see if anybody's got any questions.
Hi there. God, that's loud.
Oh, wow, that's loud. That woke me up.
So, in relation to the legal sector specifically, so I used to work for a communications agency that worked with a major UK law firm, and I found even like 5 or 6 years ago, a number of lawyers still relied on like bundles and physical like paperwork and that kind of thing. So, how do you, I guess, shift perception internally and balancing that pragmatism and I guess those ways of working that are traditional and had always worked, but balancing that kind of I guess pragmatism with progression as well at the same time?
I certainly think it's, well, using AI not necessarily for everything, right? So our office on Fleet Street, you still see people walking bundles up to the Chancery division and in the courts, that is, and you know that's because the user interface of paper is still quite good. You can still pass it around when you're doing your litigation and whatnot. And you can still pass notes behind and everything like that, whereas doing that with an iPad or a laptop is a bit more risky because you know you're relying on battery power and whatnot. But yeah, it's well, I think some things are going to be still relied on traditionally, and probably you'll find there'll be people with particular experience levels and quirks that like to do things they've always done, and I suppose it will be a slow phasing out. So there are some of the junior members now that absolutely they've never printed, whereas when I first started every single email was printed and put in the docket, and there were people that went around and did that, and there are some people still now that like to have the printable things and you know everything like that. So I think it'll be a slow transition, but there are still going to be some things that you know the medium of paper or the medium of whatever it was is still the best user interface. You know, like there's no better user interface than your CD collection and things like that. It's a better way to look. Well, personally for me, but yeah, I digress.
You know, I agree. And it's somewhat of a generational thing where you've got senior lawyers, partners who've used paper for 40 years, and say you stick paper on, and some files would be costed by actually weighing the file. So it's a historic thing to an element. Yeah, we are a paperless firm, but some of our team, so litigation, so we've got a litigation colleague here, will still be paper property. The land registry still needs things in paper, so it's a journey still, but it's going in the right direction. Yeah, and again, it's having the right systems in place, and again, those systems are going in the right direction, but they're still fallible.
On? Yep. This wasn't my original question, but I now want to ask whether the environmental costs of AI in the legal sector are going to be offset by the environmental benefits of not printing everything. Is that? So my real question is obviously professional services. A lot of it is done on day rates, and a lot of your businesses will be on day rates. How are you balancing the efficiencies that you're getting from AI and the ability to get through the work faster, which presumably your clients are aware of, against your need to charge and maintain your utilization for your staff?
Yeah, so that is a bit of a challenge, but the idea of being able to use AI is to free up time to be able to give the advice to clients rather than just do it, certainly in the accountancy industry, the data processing. You know, that's not the important part. The important part for them is interpreting the figures, giving them the advice they need to make changes, regulatory changes, you know, look at the risk areas. So it does free up time to do that without having to increase the fees as much as maybe what we had done. You know, the annual costs rising each year, the cost of staff, national insurance increases, you know, the cost of living is rising. The use of AI does help you pull back on increasing those hourly rates quite as much. But I think you will see a bit more value pricing in professional services, particularly in the accountancy industry. You know, it'll be a case of you're asked to do a piece of advice rather than it being costed on an hourly basis. You know, it'll be based on an actual charge. So yeah, there will be changes from it, but I think it's still developing at the moment.
I'll try and add to that. So we have a services side of the company, and that is based on day rates. And what we find actually, we utilizing our AI technology, as I said, has saved a huge amount of time, hours per month, hundreds of hours per month, depending on how many people are using it. But it hasn't been about the time saved or the money saved. It's been about how much more we can do. So we're running more tests. The quality of work that we're producing is better. So actually, the customer, what we provide into our customers, are valuing our service more than now that we have this AI tool in place. Short, but hopefully answers your question.
Yeah, you're right to mention kind of daily rates and hourly rates, and the billable hour is a traditional thing in legal profession. And I guess the instant reaction is, well, you've used AI to do something, which means a human, which they'd have spent 10 hours previously, spent 5 hours, so I should pay 5 hours. That misses quite a crucial point. AI comes with a cost, and most occasions quite a cost. So it's how we address that. I don't know what the answer is. I'd happily ditch the billable hour, but surprisingly, a lot of clients are kind of wedded to it. That's a discussion we're having internally and something we are analysing moving forward and kind of reviewing as we grow our AI use, how that affects our pricing and profitability. So I don't know yet. Maybe in 12 months' time I'd have a better answer. But yeah.
I don't think I've any answer.
I think one of the things that we were talking about as we were getting ready is, you know, we're looking at all of the commercial models. We're having to adapt and change a lot. But there is potentially an opportunity for professional services advice to become more accessible, because if we can reduce our cost to serve, we can potentially make our services available to clients and customers, smaller businesses that wouldn't previously have hesitated from using organisations like ours. It's an adaptation that we're needing to go through. I think we're probably a long way down our journey. It doesn't mean that our clients aren't always going to challenge us about why we're not cheaper. And if they think we're overusing AI, is your customer data safe with us? You know, we're regulated. We have to be responsible in that regulated industry. We will always be asked why we're not cheaper. So, thank you.
A simple two-part question for each of the panelists. First of all, how long have we got until 80% of our time is replaced by AI? And the second part, what useful stuff can we be doing with that 80% of the time, like coming to Wales Tech Week and other stuff?
I don't know. It's a good question. Yeah, so until AI takes over everything, obviously it depends on the industry completely. For us in particular at tiQtoQ, that human element is really important. So we always feel that they're always going to be in the loop. Humans are probably going to move to more to roles that involve empathy and customer-facing kind of positions. All those mundane tasks are going to be automated. But that's what we're dealt with today, right? Who knows where AI is going in the future? You know, it's advanced so quickly over the past 12 months. We don't know what it's going to be in the next 12 months. So all I would say is advise to anyone is just play the cards that you've got right now, and that is co-pilots. That's what I believe in. You know, empower your staff as much as you possibly can. But in terms of what you could be doing with your time after that, then I guess supporting your fellow colleagues in doing as much as you possibly can, but and focusing on providing good customer service. I think that's going to be key, because that's going to help you stand out amongst all of your competitors.
One of my colleagues recently asked one of the AI online providers, will I be replaced by AI? And it came back and it said no. So hopefully we should all be okay. But I suppose the AI revolution, or is it an evolution, is being controlled by human beings. So it's up to us people to decide how it's used. That'll be controlled more by the bigger players with the bigger pockets, naturally. But ultimately, for all you people out there, it's how you want to use AI. How are you going to develop AI? You know, I think we'll all still be here. We'll all still be working. And as to what you can do with your time, you know, I echo what Mike said. That, you know, teach your colleagues, help support them, bring on the next generation of empathetic advisors.
Yeah, I guess you're only going to get the 80% time saving if you've already reached that level of skill and knowledge in your profession to be able to rely and lean back on it. Also, perhaps we're going to be spending a lot more time teaching, but yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, people said when computers came there'd be like a 3-day working week, but that never really came along, did it? So I think humans will find a way to just naturally fill that time, like we did with all of the technology that came out and then over the last thousands of years, I guess. But a bit of a piece.
I went to a different place when you said, what are we all going to do with our time? I'm going to go off and ride a horse or something. You know, I think all of our organisations are going through so much adaptation. In professional services, we've got a problem that we are evaluated by our billable hours, and that is something that needs to change, because that forces people to kind of stay plugged in. And if we're going to increasingly expect our people to do that critical thinking, that interpretation, that evaluation, they're going to need an awful lot of time to unplug. And over time, we've prized presenteeism. We need to start to prize skills very, very differently. And I'd hope that that leads to real recognition of the value that we get from our workforces by enabling them to have balanced lives. Certainly, you know, I work for an organisation that has significant support for paternity leave. I see many, many male colleagues now taking 6 months off in order to spend time establishing that family dynamic. I would hope that we're heading towards a future where we can do that for people more, but there's always going to be a trade-off between the sort of commercial value that we all bring and the way that we use the incomes that we generate to support our people to live their lives. We're pretty close on time. Yeah, we're all done. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm sure we're all going to be around for the day, so if anybody's got any more questions or wants to come and say hello, we'd love to meet you all. Thank you for your time and attention.
And thank you to you as well for fantastic discussion. I think some really interesting takeaways in terms of the role of people with AI, the environmental impact and how it can be mitigated, and also the sort of data protection. And for me personally, trying to move away from the paper. Just to let you know, there's now going to be a short break in the panel discussion programme, so we can have some lunch. But the exhibitions will still be open, so please make the most of those. And there are also some demonstrations out on the plaza, so if you want to get some fresh air, get out and have a look at that. The next event here on the Pulse stage will take place at 2 o'clock. That's called PropTech Trends Transforming the Built Environment. So I hope to see some of you for that. But for now, please put your hands together once more for our fantastic panel.